Alright guys, so today I wanted to do a video on the Zilla temperature controller that I use. I use the 1000 watts. I wanted to go over some pros and cons about them, and the reasons I use them, and what you should use them for, and if it's right for you. Alright, so I wanted to go over the pros and cons of the Zilla thermostat. So first I'll go with the pros. It keeps the temperature constant within about 5 degrees, I found. So that's always a good thing. You don't want to cook these little guys that you're trying to maintain the temperature, or you don't want to put the temperature too low. You want to keep the temperature just right for them, because sometimes just with a heat map by itself could potentially be too much temperature for your gecko or whatever animal you're using. And then the other thing is it's really easy to use. I'll show you how to use it in a second, but you just turn the temperature dial to where you want it. I recommend having a thermometer though, so you can tell exactly if it's on track. I'll get to that in the pro or the cons, but it's usually accurate, pretty accurate within about 5 degrees. So a little bit off won't be too bad for your gecko. It's also pretty cheap. It's about $20 I found on Amazon. So that's also a plus. So you don't need to get a giant thermostat. Alright, so let's go to the cons now. It can't be used in a rack because it is so cheap. It's more designed for the average person with their tank. So I would not advise using this in a rack because it won't be able to get enough power through it to get heated evenly. It probably will only get up to like 80 degrees. If you want to go to 90, it might not be able to circulate enough power to keep the heat constant, and you'll have a problem. You could even short circuit it. So I would suggest not doing that. If you're going to use a rack, a thermostat, get a professional thermostat. They only cost like, I think I found some for like $70, but like $100 is where you're going to be looking at if you're going to get a rack. But once you get a rack, it's already an investment. So the other thing is it's not always accurate. That's why I use a thermometer to make sure it's at a consistent temperature, because I might have it set for 90 and it goes up to like 100, or it goes down to 80. So you got to play with it. Sometimes the probe just is like, I don't know, it's just heated and it retains the heat. And you got to make sure the probes are in the right place, or else you're going to have some problems. I think that'll be about it. And so let's get to show you how this works. Alright guys, so this is the thermostat that I'm using right now. I used to have two. This is the one from her old tank, because the one from her new tank that I put on there before was defective. It wasn't working for whatever reason. It just wouldn't get enough power through to the heat mat, so I was having some trouble. But alright, anyway, let's look at how you actually work this and how easy it is to do. All you gotta do when you first get it out of the box is take this, plug your heat sources into it. It has 3 outlets. So I have just a heat mat into it. That works fine for a leopard gecko. And then you need to set the temperature to where you want. So right now I have it set to a little bit under 90. It probably needs to go above 90 right now, because I've been playing with it, because I just put it on here. So you got to play with it a little bit. That's why I suggest a thermometer. The thermometer I'm using right now is a ZooMed digital thermometer. It works great. I have had no problems with it. So I think the problem with the old one was the probe wasn't working very well. And going on to the probes, you want to be able to make sure that the probes for your thermometer and your thermostat are in the same place, so you get an accurate reading. And so that's why what I've done is I've connected them. I'm not going to pull it out now, but as you can see, I've connected them. They're twined together, so I know they're in the same place. Or what you can do is you can have, instead of that, you could use like this heat temp gun, which this one's a pretty cheap one. I just had it at home. It's not one designed for reptiles, but you probably pick one up for less than $10 if you need one. And if you have a lot of cages and you don't want to have to use a thermometer for each one, because that can get pretty expensive, you just need to have one of those, and you can go around and check it and just shoot the infrared beam at it, and it'll tell you the temperature, which I think is a lot easier than having temperature or thermometers just on each one. Alright guys, so adding on to how the thermostat works, I forgot to put this in here, but this green light means it's on. This red light means that the heat is being outputted. So the way that the thermostat is going to work with actually outputting the heat is it'll turn on once the probe feels the desired temperature. That's set up here, the probe gets that temperature, it'll shut off. Then once it gets to I'd say about 5 degrees under, it'll turn back on. And it'll shut off, turn back on, shut off, turn back on, just to regulate that heat. And it'll save power that way. So you won't have it running consistently. You'll have it running for, say, half the day instead of consistently, which will save you a significant amount of power over time. Instead of having like 2 years worth of power continuously, you'll have 1 year worth of power, or whatever the actual rate of it is. Alright, so this thermostat works great for everything. Works great for heat mats, heat lights, and then also ceramic heaters. They all work fine. You can plug them all up in the same time, and once that probe gets to that temperature that you want it at, it'll shut off all of them, which is great. So you can have up to 3 heat sources that I've mentioned previously. I think that's going to about wrap this video up. One thing before we go is that you can use this for any reptile that needs heat. Cresteds, they probably don't need much heat, but if you want to keep your cresty at room temperature and your room gets a little bit low, because my room temperature right now is about 68, and it's a little bit lower than I would feel comfortable with crested gecko, because room temperature is about 72, so sometimes people's rooms get a little bit lower, and so that's what you might want to use it for a cresty. But I think the main reason, or main animals you'd use this for, are snakes and leopard geckos. Oh, she's spazzing out. Calm down, Leah. Yeah, so you can use this with any reptile, really. You could even use it with any other something that's not a reptile. Yep. Well, I think with that, we're gonna have to say bye. And there she goes. Alright, see you guys.